Well, great. Thank you very much. So welcome, everyone. In particular, welcome to the Riverside School Board parents, because this was meant for you, but we since have been able to open it up, thanks to people all across the province. So welcome to you from other parts of the province. As I mentioned, this is a Zoom webinar format, so we cannot see you, although we know the numbers of people that are coming in, and we're very pleased with the number of you that are able to make it and be with us here this evening. My name is Eva de Gosztonyi. I'm a psychologist with the Riverside School Board. I'm also the coordinator of the Center of Excellence for Behavior Management. And I'm here with Dr. Deborah MacNamara, whom I will introduce in a moment, and also my two colleagues, Martine Demers and Korah, who are both behavior consultants with the Riverside School Board and also on the team of the Center of Excellence for Behavior Management. And they were asked by the Complementary Services Department of Riverside School Board to put together resources for parents as you face the challenge of sending your children back to school. It's a difficult time. We all have many, many questions about how this is going to happen. There's a large amount of alarm, frustration, confusion, concern. But we're going to focus tonight on helping you to help your children get back into school. And Martine, would you like to say a few words about the resources?
Sure. Riverside parents should have received through their school administrators an email with the resources or a link attached to it, that we've created different resources for you, that either you can have it through the administrators or online through the Center of Excellence website, and we'll put that in our chat so you can have access to it. Those that are not from Riverside, you are welcome to use the resource, have a look at them. We've created video capsules, and there are documents and games for social distancing, so we can introduce that to students, to your children in a really fun way, just bringing play into it. So we hope that those will be helpful. Go have a look. They'll be there ready for you to have a look at.
Great, thanks, Martine. And Catherine has been instrumental, together with the Complementary Services team, in bringing this material to you in French as well, and also placing it on our Center of Excellence website. And we will send out, as I say, tomorrow to all of you who have registered, information, all the links on how to find this information. So those of you who haven't yet received it, don't worry about that. It will come to you. Just a few little things about this evening's webinar. So Dr. MacNamara is going to be doing a presentation for about 30 minutes. And then if you have questions that you would like to ask her, and many of you have already shared with us the concerns that you have, but if there's some specific questions you'd like to ask her, please put those into the chat box, and Martine and Catherine will be monitoring the chat box and providing those questions to me so that I can ask Deborah once she's finished her presentation. Of course, we can't answer medical questions. We are not medical people, so we're not going to be answering any questions about medical things, and also about very specific procedures in the schools. Your schools should be communicating with you about how things are going to be taking place specifically in your school. If you have a concern, do not hesitate to write to your principal, to your administrator. They will answer your questions as best they can, because our focus is going to be on helping you to lead your child back to school, back to this new experience that they're going to have, and what can you as a parent do to help lead them. And we have with us Dr. Deborah MacNamara, who is a clinical counselor from Vancouver, British Columbia. She's also a member of the faculty of the Neufeld Institute, author of Rest, Play, Grow, Making Sense of Preschoolers, and also of a children's book called The Sorry Plane. She's a woman who has many, many experiences and a lot to share with us, but she's also the mother of 2 adolescents. So Deborah, without further ado, hand it over to you.
Eva. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here with you, and thank you so much to Martine and Catherine and Eva for all of your hard work. I know what you've been doing in the background, a little bit of it, to support parents, and I have to say your parents are in such wonderful hands to be able to be given so many resources and support. And I know this is just one of many of the things that you've been working on. So thank you so much for your warm invitation. These are my colleagues, so this isn't a new relationship for me. These are my friends and my colleagues here, and I'm looking forward to being able to support parents tonight with all of you. So I'm going to just share my screen now and put up our presentation on how we lead our children back to school. And the importance here, of course, and I want to highlight, is the word lead. The idea here is that it's not just sending our children back to school, it's how are we going to lead them there. And I know for many parents, certainly as a parent myself and talking to many parents, this idea of sending our children back in such uncertain times when we don't know about COVID, or what we do know about COVID is only starting to emerge, and we have many concerns about the medical aspects. And so there's this level of uncertainty and I think mixed emotions that parents have. And yet there's also the realization that we need to get back with our life and that time does need to proceed forward. And going to school is one of the biggest things that our children engage with outside of the home. And so here we have, as many countries have around the world, are leading our children back to school. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean to lead our children back? And how is it that we as parents can play a supporting role? I want to talk about a couple of things today, and they actually came from all of your comments and questions that came through. So thank you so much for those. It helps inform what is most present on your mind. But these were some of the things that you said. What about getting COVID and getting sick? What does this mean for my kid? What does it mean when my child is resistant and a little bit worried? How can I help them? Will this create more anxiety in them? Completely understandable that you'd have this question. Will they follow the new rules and restrictions around social distancing? How do you help your child emotionally? How will they play at school? Will it be any fun? And what about learning? So these were some of the questions that informed my presentation tonight, basically trying to answer these for you as best as we can in the time that we have. The first question is will our kids feel safe? And then this is an interesting question because safety is actually an illusion. It's an illusion for all of us. We can't predict what's going to happen. We can't know the future. The idea of safety implies physical safety. And I would like to suggest that we need to change that to a different question, because if a child says to you, will I be safe? If you say, yes, you'll be safe. You only have to have a child with just a little bit of awareness and intellect to know that this is a false front, because the reality is bad things do happen. And they only have to have one or two bad things happen and they realize, yeah, this is not the reality. So what I would suggest is that we actually need to ask a different question. Will our kids feel secure? This gets at the root of it. And the answer to this is yes. We can make our children feel secure in the face of much uncertainty and alarm. And this is one of the secrets of human relationships. This is based in understanding the science of human relationship and what it is that helps a child actually feel secure. And I can tell you the good news is there's no one more responsible for that or more able to help a child in this respect than the adults in a child's life. And those two people, or not two, but could be more, are the adults at home and the adults at school. And so this is what we have control over. This is what we can work at. And it actually can bear the most fruit in terms of helping our children feel secure, even in a world that seems upside down, that seems uncertain, where we don't have all the answers. This actually isn't required for helping our children feel secure. So how is it that we can go about this? Well, what we know is that we have these beautiful instincts inside of us, the instincts to take the lead, to orient our children, wash your hands, stay 2 meters behind, to protect, to defend them, right? To look out for them, to give our orders to them. This is our natural stance, to be the caretaker to our children, to be a provider. This isn't something that you have to learn. This is already inside of you. You will know this weight and responsibility that came over you when you had a child, and you could feel this sense of vigilance to paying attention to their environment and what it is that they needed. So this is already inside of you to help your child feel secure, is by standing in that caretaker position and taking responsibility to take care of and to lead your child. When we do this, and when our teachers do this as well, is that our children will seek that adult out for direction, to get their bearings. What do we do now? What has changed? To look up to them, to lead them to learning, or lead them to whatever it is that you need to lead them to. Without this relationship, you cannot lead a child because they're not following you. And so what we need to work at is this beautiful relationship between adult and child. This adult and child becomes a bubble, a relational bubble that preserves and protects a child in terms of feeling secure in the world. They have a place. They know where they belong. They know who their people are. They have a home. And this is the most important question for any child. Where do I belong and who takes care of me? We can't simply just tell our children, oh, you're going to be okay. Many children quickly realize that we can't control all of that, and they'll come back at you with questions. But what we can say is, instead of saying, oh, you'll be okay, as if to reassure them, that won't work, especially for those of you who have very sensitive children who are very aware of their environment. And for any of those that have had things happen to them where they know you can't always be protecting them from every bad thing that happens. But what we can say to our children is your adults will take care of you. Your adults at school, your teachers who are looking forward to seeing you, and me, I'll look forward to seeing you after school. I won't send you anywhere that I don't think you'll be taken care of. I often say that to my children. I don't let you go anywhere where I don't think you'll be taken care of. And this person here will be able to take care of you. Look to them. They know how to get a hold of me if needed. But they're the ones that I have chosen for you to take care of you. And it's inside this relational bubble that our children feel secure. And that's the best thing we can offer our children. In fact, it is the requirement for all growth. They won't feel lost when they're in this bubble. Even though many things have changed, they won't feel lost, and they'll have a question to who will take care of me. So you can see the job as parents is to make sure we orient our children to the caretakers who are going to take care of them as we send them off from home. So what do we need to do to build this beautiful relational bubble is that we have to deepen and preserve our relationship with our child. We have to make relationship the priority. There's many ways we can do this, and you will know this well as parents. The expression of warmth and delight and enjoyment, this beautiful invitation to be close, this generosity of spirit that says, I want to spend time with you, to listen with full attention and not to be preoccupied. Tell me more about that. To take interest in the smallest of things, especially, at bedtime. So many of our kids want to talk to us at bedtime about their day or whatever might be going on, or their stories or their ideas, just to listen with full attention, to try to see the world through their point of view, to share a hobby together, to remember what's important for them, to care for them in unexpected ways, things that they weren't expecting, and you surprise them. That means that you were holding them close in mind. Play together. This is wonderful for building relationships. Eat together. There's so many things that we can do, but this is our responsibility to take the lead. And when there is a challenge between us, maybe there's some discipline or lack of expectations that have been met, then we need to remember to do all things in discipline, in terms of discipline inside the relationship. Sometimes we might have to wait till the incident has passed, but to do all of our work inside the relationship with our children. This pulls them close to us. It helps provide that beautiful relational bubble in which they feel secure, and we can send them out into the world with this buffer zone around them. The other thing that we need to do is to make them to their teacher and other caring adults at school. And the idea here being is that your teacher will take care of you. That's what a teacher does. They've missed you. They've been preparing for you to come back. They've got the classrooms ready. They know exactly what you need. Yes, you'll be secure with your teacher. This is the role of your teacher. You know how much they care about you and care about all their students. And so you're putting them into their hands, just like and building that beautiful attachment relay team so that your child doesn't have to second guess who it is they should look to for help. And again, just to reiterate the point, we can't tell them that they're okay, but we will tell them that they will be taken care of. Meet their needs and not their demands. As soon as our children start to demand, I need this, you need to tell me what's going to happen, we cannot take care of our child from that position. We have to be the one to be in the lead, to look at what it is that a child actually needs. Read the cues and keep them to ourselves. We don't need to ask our children lots of questions. Are you scared? Are you scared? Actually, it would be much better if you see that your child's a little alarmed, is to take the lead and convey confidence that they can handle this difficult thing, that you wouldn't send them anywhere that you weren't sure that they could handle, even if you don't believe that to be true. Even if you don't believe that to be true, that we can say this to our children. Some parents do not have a choice here. Every parent is different in regards to this decision to send their children back to school. We have to appreciate and understand that this is a difficult decision for everybody, but for some it is an absolute necessity. And when we have to take the lead in situations like this, we can't fail to give our child that sense of confidence. I will take care of you. I know what you need, and I'm going to help you with this. And your teacher's going to help you with that as well. And so in that, that gives the child the confidence to face what is difficult, even if inside of you, you are having to hide your concerns. This is sometimes very hard for us as parents, I can tell you. We may be alarmed, we may be confused. And the goal here is to remember to look at what it is that your child needs and to put your focus and your attention on your child. Because as soon as you see what it is that they need, as soon as your focus is on your child, you will find this beautiful sense often inside of you that says, I just need to be the answer to my child here. What is it that they need from you? It doesn't mean that you don't have your emotions, but it does mean that those emotions are not delivered onto your child. They don't need to see our alarm. They don't need to see our fear. They don't need to see our frustration or confusion. What they need to see is an adult who's going to take the lead. I know sometimes this is very difficult. I know sometimes it will raise incredible emotions like guilt and shame. As a parent, I know these emotions well. What I do know, though, is that my children need to see someone who's going to lead and to take care of them. It is the ultimate challenge in parenting, but I can tell you it's something you don't have to learn. It is the emotions that are already inside of you to care deeply about your children that will allow you to rise into this position to take the lead with the decisions that you make in the best interests of your family and of your child. The second question that many of you asked me was, will our kids adapt? Will they be able to handle the new restrictions, all the changes that have happened here? It's like school has turned upside down. What will our children do when they go back and they're faced with classrooms that are different protocol routines, and will they be able to handle it? And the good news here is yes, we are incredibly adaptable as a species, and incredibly resilient and resourceful. The question is not can we adapt, but what are the ingredients to help a child adapt to the new realities? What is it that the adults in their life need to do to ensure that this adaptability happens? And so that's what I want to talk a little bit about today, is what is required. So number one is that our children need to be attached to the adults who are in the lead. If our children are not attached to those adults at home or in the school environment, it's going to be very difficult to share with them the new guidelines around how we have to conduct ourselves and how things have changed. If children are not following, this is going to be a bit of a challenge. And so what is the answer? The answer again is to work on relationship, to make sure that we make them to the adults who are responsible, and to work on our relationship at home. We know that our adults, and I can tell you this, teachers have been working very hard to help support your children coming back into school. And the biggest thing in their mind is security and helping children settle into school again. And one of the ways that they're going to do that is through play. Now, you might be thinking, why are they doing all these funny things and playful things around all the new routines and all the new rules? You might be thinking to yourself, shouldn't we be serious about this? Shouldn't we be telling them what can happen if they don't do that? And the answer is no, actually. And the reason is that play is less likely to provoke resistance inside of you, because play is something that you don't have to do. But of course, in a playful way, children are learning about what they need to do. So there's a sense of agency for a child. And the other thing is play is not as alarming because it's not so called for real. In play, children learn lots about life without provoking all of those emotions that could get in the way of learning what it is that they need to do. So play, support the play, and watch as the adults in your school environment play your children into the new routines. And you can certainly help with that as well, playing it, washing your hands, singing songs, playing around how far to stay away from different people. These are all ways that we help orient our children to what has changed. The second thing, or the third thing that's important here, is that when we are adapting to new things, is we want to do it in a non-alarming tone and simple script. So this is how we do it. This is how we follow along. It's two arm lengths, or and you should be able to spin around with your hands and not be able to touch anybody, and just like a yo-yo or whatever that goes around and around. We're just using very simple scripts. If you think about getting onto a plane, a flight attendant has a very easy tone. In the unlikely event, they've got a smile on their face, they're warm, they're engaging, and this again reduces the alarm, it reduces resistance, and it helps a child feel safe. And so this is, again, another one of those wonderful strategies to help our children adapt. So is soliciting good intentions. If you have your child's heart, if your child is following you, what you can do is just simply solicit good intentions. Can I count on you to follow your adults? Can I count on you to do this? Can I count on you to do that? Attachment is what it makes a child. Your relationship is what makes your child want to follow you, wants your child to meet your expectations. And so lean right into this. Can I count on you to do this? And what you're doing is, before there are problems, before you're in the middle of a battle about washing hands, you're already just gently orienting your child to the new realities that they have. Remember, we're incredibly adaptable. And sometimes your children will be frustrated. Oh, all the new futilities that are there. And we couldn't do this, and the, you know, this was closed, or we weren't allowed to do this, and I was really missing this. I can only imagine some of the disappointments that you're going to hear. I know I certainly have heard mine. You know, my daughter told me yesterday, I don't think I can do this for very much longer, Mommy. Yes, I do know that feeling. So sometimes we just need to touch the futilities. We need to make room for their stories. We need to make room for their emotions in order to help them adapt, because there are so many futilities. So please don't try to talk them out of this. A little listening is going to go a long way. Help them put words to what it is, all the new changes that they have to experience. The third thing that many of you asked is, will this experience of going back to school amid COVID, is this going to create anxiety? And this is what I know about anxiety and stress, and what science tells us about anxiety and stress, is that when we feel overwhelmed emotionally, we can't make sense of things as well. You know, we don't understand why things are happening, and our brain sometimes can be searching for answers, but sometimes we're just so emotionally overloaded and we don't know why. And sometimes those feelings of anxiety, those big emotions of alarm come up inside of us, and sometimes they're false alarms, and sometimes they're things we need to be thoughtful about. So what is the answer here then? What is the answer to these big emotions? Well, many times people say stress, you know, is caused by school, and that's not exactly correct. Yes, we can have stressors at school, but for a child, the reality is that the stress in terms of going to school has more to do with the separation from home. It's about leaving one caretaker and transferring into the hands of another one, and being assured that there is another adult to transfer to. Many of you will know that at the beginning of school, especially if your children were young, if you think back to those early years, that many of them had a little bit more anxiety leaving home and going into school. But as soon as they fall into a relationship with their teacher, as soon as they come to know them, as soon as they get attached to the school, this alarm tends to reduce, and they seem to settle in. And so this is also true with going back in our new reality here, is that when our kids feel this seamless transition from home into school, where we put their hands into the hands of their teacher, it's this transition of care, we should hopefully see a reduction in alarm. Now, does that mean all of their big feelings will go away? No, of course not. But it will help to reduce the separation anxiety that they experience, because they feel at home in the care of the adults who are responsible for them. The other thing that you should know, which is incredibly powerful when you understand attachment science and relationship, is that your relationship is like a force field around their heart, their emotional system, their limbic system, whatever you want to call it. And what this means is that a child, when they can feel their vulnerable emotions, this is actually what is required for healing, for emotional maturity, and for surviving tough things like resiliency. All of the research on resiliency is really clear, is that we are built to get through hard things if we can attach and are attached as a child to adults who have a strong, caring relationship with us, who take the lead, because it is that adult relationship that is a force field around our heart, not a force field around the world and every bad thing that can happen, but around the child's heart. So they have someone they can trust to lean into, to tell their stories, to find their tears with, to make sense of all the things that do not make sense, and to adapt to the things we cannot change. This is at the core of human resiliency, is your attachment with your child. It becomes a barrier when they feel too unsafe, too insecure, too alarmed, too much separation, too much shame. In fact, they trust that you will pay attention to the things that are most alarming, and they will oftentimes enter into a place of rest where they can pay attention to learning or to playing. Is this possible in the time of COVID? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we work on relationship to take care of the emotions, and this helps to reduce the alarm that our children will feel. What is important is that when we have our child's heart, if we want to keep those emotions moving, if we want our children to be emotionally mature and to thrive and to not get stuck, it's important to come alongside of those big feelings that they may have, from frustration to alarm to confusion. There's no right or wrong here when it comes to their emotions. We don't need to judge them. We don't have to discount them. Oh, it's not so bad. Those comments are not helpful, and they usually make a child not talk to us and share their vulnerable feelings with us. We don't need to defend ourselves or our decisions that we made. You know why you have to make the decisions you need to make. No one needs to stand in judgment of that. Don't feel like you have to justify that to your child. I know this is difficult to hear. I know this is a difficult transition, and I'm here. Tell me more. That's more of the approach that we would want to take. We don't need to convey to our children that they're too much to handle, they're too big, they're too difficult, especially with the, think about our special needs kids and thinking about the added layer that some of these changes might bring to them. Again, the answer is still the same. We'll take care of you. We are able to take care of every child. There's no one here that can't be taken care of, because that's what adults do. We take care of you. We read your needs, and the invitation is there. It's not a time to teach a lesson or to solve a problem. It's a time to listen to the emotional content that our children have. This, much more than ever, is important to help our children thrive and survive the challenges that they may have, and the big feelings they may have that may come with this transition. To come alongside our children's feelings is to accept the existence of them. This is our emotional homework each night, as it were. There's one thing to do math, but there's another to hold on to your child's frustration. Just normalize the feelings. Yes, there's a lot to get used to today. Make room for the feelings. Don't try to get rid of them. Gordon Neufeld often says, if you give, many people are afraid to give, an emotion, a little bit of time, because they think it will take a mile. They think it will take all the space. However, if we don't give our children some space for their feelings, they do tend to build up, and they can explode out of them and build up and cause more distress. So it's important to just walk our way into it with our relationship being the shield. The other thing that's really interesting here is that when nature gave us so much emotion, it also gave us something to help with that emotion that didn't require words, that didn't require insight or awareness, and that's play. Play actually takes care of emotions. This is actually a wonderful new discovery, a new old discovery. I think many people have always known the benefit of play. If you were a child, hopefully you remember that feeling of escape, that feeling of being free, that sense of things not being for real. It's incredible, the sense of security that is found when you lose yourself in play. It's not for work. It doesn't have to count for something. And it's expressive and exploratory. You can make what is inside of you comes out. This isn't PlayStation or video games that I'm talking about. This is our children returning to, their arts and their crafts and their music and their movement, whatever it is, they're building and, creating in some way. There's many different ways to turn to play. But what is critical here is that in play, our children are making sense of the world around them. And that's what we can't forget, is that it's a safe place to make sense of the world around you, especially when words fail you. And it is a place of rest. And so whether that be at home or in school, making room for play is going to serve our children's emotional systems and keep them on the path towards emotional well-being. It's important to remember that we go in play and out of play. There are boundaries to play. It's not just staying in play all the time. There's times to play and there's times to come out and to do the work that is also required. Play allows for emotional buildup that is there. It allows this beautiful, beautiful expression, because what we know is that we're under stress. When we are under stress, when there are lots of things changing, we're not always aware of all of this. And so there's this emotional buildup that can happen. So what happens is that play provides this beautiful steam release, as it were, in this pressure cooker metaphor here, which just knows when to release it. Play just provides that valve. We're not out of the woods yet. We're not all the way through this COVID crisis, but I can tell you, play provides this pressure valve to release what needs to be released. And the beautiful thing about play is it works in very tight spaces. You don't have to have a lot of room for play. And the beautiful examples that came out of Italy, with people singing outside of their balcony, even in the tightest of spaces, play allows for the expression. the emotional expression. And when emotion moves, emotion is moving through us, we're much more likely to reach more stability, more balance, more perspective, and find the rest we need. Because we can't, this is a marathon. We have to preserve ourselves emotionally. There are lots of emotions that are stirred up, and so our job is to make room for emotions, and play may be the best thing that you can do to help your child here. So after school, before school, anytime, there's any time's a good time to play. You could play your way to school, playing with alarm. This is some of the representations of how alarm is embedded in this type of play: rescuing someone, startling someone, ambush, tumble play, monsters and scary stories. These kinds of things puts the alarm in a mode that isn't for real. So the alarm doesn't go over the top, but yet it allows for some expression and some discharge. And so playing with your emotions is so therapeutic, and you don't have to have any special knowledge to play. It's all already inside of all of us. You can also play with frustration, mock aggression, war games, play fighting, destroying, growing, planting, fixing, building. These are wonderful ways to deal with futility, but not head on, just from a sideways glance. All the things that are changed. You can have your forts and your places that you control, that you have your own domain, especially in a world where there's things that are changing that you can't control. So don't be afraid to support play. Don't be afraid to lead your child there. Emotionally, you will be serving them well. You'll be discharging all the emotions that can be stirred up after a day at school, and allows them to get to bed to be restored again each day. The last and final question is a very quick one, is will our kids learn? Understandably, if we're sending our kids to school, this would be a very important question to ask. As a developmentalist, one of the things that I'm often looking at is what are the conditions required for our children to realize their full potential? And when you look at the order of and the hierarchy of what is most important, relationship is always at the foundation of what makes our children thrive. And so relationship must come before everything else. When we know relationship is there, we know a child is able to play, and in play they learn so much. And with safe and not safe, but secure relationships, our children aren't worried about a relationship, and so they're free to learn. We know that the emotional system will hold our attention hostage. Hostage if we're worried, hostage if we're overwhelmed. And so when adults take the lead and provide those kind of secure relationships I talked about, our children's attention is free to play and it's free to learn. So when we think about what is required for our children to learn, we need not focus so much the learning. I know our teachers know exactly how to help our children learn, but we can't forget that what is actually required as a precursor to learning is that they feel safe and secure with the adults who are responsible for them. And we can do a lot there when it comes to learning. So will our kids learn? Of course they will. But let's not lose sight of what is most critical for them in our school environments. Finally, I'll just leave you with this, is this idea of together. We hear a lot about this word together. I think sometimes we take it for granted, but underneath this sense of togetherness, it's about attachments, it's about human relationships. And more now than ever, our children need us to lead, and our teachers need to lead, and our adults need to lead. And what our children are learning and what we are learning is that how much we really mean to each other. We have the best example of what attachment science has to offer, is that our key to survival is leaning into our relationships and letting our relationships lead our children. When our children are following us and we're in the lead, they don't feel the storm head on. They're very much protected from the adversity as they follow us and take our lead. And so that is what we need to be most preoccupied with as we take our children back to school. So thank you very much. I know I will now turn it over to Eva, invite her to come back up, and we'll start to address some of your questions and comments.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah. You covered a lot in a very short amount of time. And And I know that that the questions, and we do have one question that has already been posted, and I'll share that with you in a moment. And for those of you that have other questions, I encourage you to please write them into the chat. As I say, many of you also wrote questions into your registration, and so I can use those as well to help so that we can get some ideas of what else we can do. So the question that came was how do we fast track the relationship and matchmake when in many cases the children will not be with the caregivers they are used to, and the caregivers might even change weekly and daily, because as you know, we are keeping our classes to 15, and some of our teachers for health reasons are not able to come back. So what is a parent to do?
Yeah. Well, I think that, this is such an interesting question, because I think that sometimes we think about attachment in terms of just a person, a specific person, and just a specific name to give someone. However, the school represents many types of attachments. A child will be attached to a school and the familiar surroundings. A child will be attached to the sense that there are adults there to take care of me, knowing the structure of the school, that there are principals, there's learning support, there's counselors. And so when we don't know the specificity of a person, what we can say is there's so many adults there. Which lucky one are you going to get? There's so many that are going to show up to take care of you. And we don't have to, relationship is not about having all the answers. It's just to know that the answer is relationship, and to make sure that we are passing off our children into the hands of the adults there. Instead of saying, oh, this is so chaotic, I don't know who your teacher is. That would be the complete opposite. Of course, there's going to be adults there to take care of a child. And we're just going to support that match. And even if you're just driving by your child's school, waving at the school, there it is, it's still waiting for you. I bet that school misses you too. You're just using every ounce of pointing your child into the fact that that school, it represents caretaking, and the adults live to take care of that child.
Great. How do you explain to your child when you've been telling them that staying home is the safest place? Now it's okay to go back to school.
Well, if there was ever a time to lead, it would be through that question. It said, hey, guess what happened? It's time to go back. Again, we just have to lead through it. I don't think there's any particular words I would give you. So much of this depends upon the age of your child. But again, it's to lead. Well, yes, I said it was time to stay home, and I knew there'd be a day when we'd go back, and now it's here. Well, Mommy, you said it wasn't safe. I know. And that's why when I knew it's time to go back, now I'm telling you. And again, I think it's really important, that word safe, it just conveys such a loaded term. What we're trying to say, is that you're secure, you'll be taken care of, and this is the way forward. So just take the lead through it. We change our minds all the time as parents. 1 minute you say you can have dessert, next minute you don't. 1 minute you're going one direction, next minute you're not. And you're like, oh, I made a mistake, and you just live through it. Okay, here we go. And you have to lead through it. This wasn't a mistake. You made a choice to keep them home, and now there's a conscious choice to send them back.
Yes, and I have a similar question as well, is that a parent says, I have to go back to work, and therefore my children have to go back to school, but I don't want them to go. I'm torn.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this is the hardest part as a parent, is when we disagree with ourselves, but we know we have to do it. And we have to lead from a place, even though we're full of doubts, even though we're full of our own sadness, right? This is very hard. And so how do we find that place inside of us to lead? I think it's helpful to know that we can lead in these situations. Do I know how you'll do it? No, I don't, but I know that you can. And that's what's the critical thing to know here, is that we are up against so much futility. And so when we do have to lead into it, we just can't fail to lead. There will be a way through. We will tell the story of how we did it. I just know that when we're up against futility, we have to put our best face forward, take our leadership stance. You will probably feel very lonely in that sometimes, that I have to make a decision here and I have to lead my children. Other people don't share that same weight on my shoulders. And so lead boldly, and know that you'll take care of your kids. Whatever happens, you are their caretaker and they look to you. So invite them to follow you and proceed forward, and you will find your way through.
What do you suggest for the children who will be staying at home while other children return to school?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, there's going to be so many differences for our children, isn't it? And our children are going to look around and talk about being disoriented. Not every child's in the school, and some kids are here and there, and the classrooms look differently. And again, I think we're just going to have to lead our kids through these changes too, that some kids are going back and some kids aren't. There's no mistakes, there's no right or wrong, honey. Every parent's just making a decision what's right for their family, and some will go now and some will go later. And to really keep it out of any judgment or shaming or difference, and let your child express their feelings about how they feel about it. Well, I really want to go back. Yeah, I can tell you do. Well, can I go back? No, mommy's making a different decision. But why, mommy? You know, you could get into all sorts of questions, especially if your child's quite bright. They'll be asking, well, why? Well, why? You know, don't get into that. That's where you lose your lead. Wait till they've accepted the fact that this is the way it's going to be. And then, you know, you can give them a reason. You know, if you're going back to work, you might say, listen, mommy needs to go and take care of kids at the school. You know, this is what mommy signed up for. My kids need me at my school. I'm going to go back and help them. And I know other teachers are going to take care of you. And so that's the decision for our family. That's the right decision for our family. If you decided to stay home, you say, well, you know, I just want you at home. You know, don't tell anyone. Shh, don't tell your teachers. I just wanted to keep you at home. Whatever you want to do. Now, that probably won't fly with a teenager. It might actually. I might say that to my kids would be like, don't send me back, mom. So just take the lead, whatever it is that you have to do, take the lead with your child and just allow them to feel whatever they feel. The differences, let them have their words for it. Don't be afraid of their upset and disappointment. They're going to feel all sorts of things. Like I said, leadership is lonely, and you're going to have to make room for the feelings that your children are going to have about the decisions you make. Don't apologize for the decisions that you make. I know parents are thinking these things through carefully, and you just have to proceed accordingly.
So we have a couple more here. Now or in September, when it comes to our little ones, so we have our 4-year-olds and our 5-year-olds in kindergarten. I know mine need lots of support, contact, hugs, reassurance. How are they going to be reassured at a distance?
Well, yes, isn't this so true about the young child? And they're just so adorable. Everything inside of you just wants to come in and reach out to them. Trust me, your teachers that you're sending them to are thinking through this very carefully. And you will know that it's not just touch that makes us feel comforted. It's not just touch that makes us feel attached. It's also our tone. It's also the care that someone takes. It's also the eyes. It's also the mannerisms that we have around someone. There's many different ways to caretaking. If we were a species that only had to, you know, touch each other to feel close, we'd be in big trouble. And we certainly wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now. People can feel cared for in lots of different ways. So please don't think that we're limited just by touch. You know, you will be able to touch your children, and that's what's most important. And your teachers will convey that they, you know, care about your kids and that they are there, and that they'll feel that warmth. I can tell you, you can feel that without touch. So I trust that you're in good hands.
Yes. Well, I know that I've had a chance to speak to some people in the schools and how they're preparing. And certainly for the little ones, they are going to make some exceptions with safety features added to it. So it'll be a little bit of a trial and error, but certainly the ones that care for the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds understand that there will be closer contact than will be, you know, than it just will have to be because of their age. But they're really, really thinking through every way that it can be to keep everyone safe.
Yeah. So we're not leaving anything to chance here.
No. Another question, will the social distancing have long-term effects on their social interactions and their social development, or will they flourish in the attachment to the adults that they can hug and touch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this person has the answer to their question. Yes, it's not just one particular form of attachment. We're very robust when it comes to relationships. And so, no, I think the most challenging thing would be not, which is always true, is not to feel the care and leadership of a particular adult in their life. This is what is going to be most critical for our kids.
We have, of course, many children with special needs in our schools, as we do in all of our schools here in Canada. And so there's one question. I have a child with person is writing is a francophone, so I'll just translate autism spectrum disorder and also ADHD. I have other parents also mentioned on their form, I have a child who has behavior problems, a hard time following the rules. How will it be possible for my child to follow the rules?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, you know, again, our children with special needs will have supports available for them, and they're preparing for your children and thinking about how to accommodate and adapt with special needs. So please don't think that your child will get left behind or isn't being thought of. I think, secondly, the things that have always helped your child adjust to school are still true. There's going to be structure and routine. There's going to be good guidelines, probably play thrown in to make it palatable, a little bit of medicine, you know, sweetness and fun to make it stick and not feel as coercive. And so they'll be using all the things that they've always used. Like, what we can't forget is that we've had to make our children prepared for difficult things in the schools, you know, whether it's lockdown drills or, you know, fire drills or earthquake preparedness. Like, we've had to prepare our children for difficult things that might happen in schools. This is not the first. And so how do we do that? We do that with our structure and our routine and with our simple scripts and review and review and review.
Yes.
Those lovely teachers that don't hold it against you and we'll get it right eventually here. And so I think we have to be patient and realize this is not the first time we've been through, you know, things where we have to orient our children to scary things. We're just going to use the things that we know work. So yes, I can understand as a parent with a child with special needs that you're concerned about these. But again, I know that you're in good hands and people are thinking about the same kind of things that you are.
Yeah. And one of the things that I have seen, and of course I work a lot with children with behavior disorders, and I always say to people, make it really clear to them where they can go, where they can't go. And the videos that I see now of how the schools prepare, actually I think it might be very easier for the children because it's really clear. You stand where the little feet are and you wait until you go to the next one with the little feet. So it's very structured. So I think some of our children who maybe in the past have had some difficulties managing the easy come and go and give and take of a school might actually find the boundaries and the visuals easier to handle, at least in the short run until they get used to the routine. So it's kind of
So
ironic
concrete.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so concrete, and so you're right. So many videos would be so helpful because you can stop and replay and stop and replay. And if you think about, you know, it's with sensory issues where you feel overwhelmed, sometimes you need to slow it down. And this provides a perfect opportunity to slow it all down and pay attention to the details and take them in piece by piece.
One of the materials that Martine and Catherine have prepared was what is the same and what is different.
Yeah.
And so we encourage you, especially with your children who need a little more orientation, to go through that little clip where there are very clear pictures of how the classrooms might look and how the hallways might look. And as you say, stop, replay, practice with the child, help them to see it. And so I think that will prepare them to use those materials. They have also prepared games for social distancing. So how far is that 2 meters? How do we do this? So practice that at home as well. So there are activities there as well that might be very helpful for children who need more practice with the behaviors. And it is going to be relatively straightforward and simple. So if the child can get that rule down, it will be the rule. It won't change a lot. And so that might be helpful to them as well.
And I love when you're talking, Eva, because what's really clear is the element of play. That's so important in your voice and your tone. And as parents, you know, if you come at it from a very alarming tone or very resistant, and we have to get it, and there's a sense of pushing your child to learn, you know, that doesn't usually go so well with our kids, and they can really back up. So the tone that you take and the stance that you take, you're just leading your child, and you're doing it as a non-alarming way that you can, and providing really simple scripts. And anybody can be led. I mean, think about how many times we've heard wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. When everybody first started saying this, I'm like, all right, already, I already know. But it's like a tape that replays in your hand. I got to wash my hands. It's just like everything that you do all the time. So we can't forget how simple it seems, but how effective it seems. But your tone is really important.
Yes. Yeah. So let me just see here. A few more questions have come up. How can we help the kids that need to move during class time?
I'm sure your teachers are thinking the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Oh, there's many ways. And remember, play gets you out of tight spaces. You don't even have to have tons of space to play. We oftentimes think of play as just in the physical element, but yeah, from yelling to singing to whatever it is, to running on the spot, there's lots of ways to play. And again, I'm pretty sure that your teachers are well aware that your kids need to move.
yes. We've been gathering all sorts of websites that, again, are very quick and fun dance things and different things. So there's going to be a lot of dance parties in the classrooms simply for exactly that reason.
And I
And
hope
it
lots
helps
of
emotionally.
singing. I hope lots of
Yes.
singing. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Lots and lots of singing for expression. Yeah.
Yeah. Knowing that teachers and staff are also under stress and anxious, it feels really hard to make the kids feel secure when I'm not convinced that they'll be received by calmness.
Oh, isn't this the truth, eh? So, and that's the hard thing, is that we are full of doubts and we don't have any certainty. We don't have all the answers. However, that isn't going to put our best foot forward in helping our children. No child needs to hear, hey, honey, it's 50-50. Tell me how it goes when you get back. Good luck with that. That's not going to happen. So we do need to have faith and trust, I think, in each other and to do this together. The one thing I will tell you, though, is about teachers is that you have to be pretty, you have to have some certain instincts if to desire to be a teacher. Like, no one is going to stand in front of a class with that many children who doesn't have some sense, some belief or confidence that they either want to be or are their best bet for a kid. And so what I can tell you is that when you're in that position where you see yourself as the answer and you have all those kids looking at you, there is something innate, emotional, instinctive that arises over you where your needs actually get pushed to the side and you become the answer for kids. And I can tell you, in working in education and working with teachers for well over 15 years, that there are these instincts that rise up inside of them to take care of children. It's beautiful to watch it. And I can tell you this, that yes, I am sure that they are also going to school thinking about their children, thinking about their worries. But when they step into that school, their answer is to be the answer to your children. And instincts, not knowledge, but instincts, emotion, and deep caring is going to be the answer here. And that, I think, you can be very, people are not called to this profession without it. And they're certainly not coming into school at this time without thinking very carefully about this. So that's what we can have faith in, I think. And it's not 100%, of course, but I think that's where we need to put our faith, is in human connectedness.
Yes. And again, the discussions that I've had with teachers in the schools are that they're also aware that they're preparing for backup as well. Like, they're recognizing that the staff is under stress as well. So they're trying to make sure, at least, again, when it's possible, because there are always limitations, but when it is possible, that there is a backup adult that can go in and help when a situation becomes difficult, when it becomes hard for the adults to sustain what they need to sustain. But I have been absolutely amazed at the creativity of the teachers, of all the things that they're thinking of all the fun ways that they're trying to make it work for the children. And so I think that certainly I'm less and less concerned, even though they express concern. And I think, if you don't mind me just saying this, I think we need to understand that expressing concerns, expressing doubts, expressing worries to each other as adults doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to do it. We just need to, as I loved your your steam pot there coming out.
Yeah,
We got to vent. We got to get
exactly.
it out. But what I've
Exactly.
seen is the venting happens and then the creativity starts happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so well said. And think about who would you want to put your children into whose hands? I mean, teachers are some of the most creative problem solvers and task masters. Like, you just can't find a better fit this way in terms of kids and to understand development. So, I mean, if anywhere we had to place our children, absolutely outside of home, our teachers and our schools are going to be the best equipped. And yes, we're going to have concerns, but they don't always marry up to reality, like you said, Eva. So well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I do have another question here, and it
Sure.
also relates to another one that I had culled from the questions. Was, my son is afraid to leave home.
Yes.
How can I reduce his fear of leaving?
Yeah. Well, I think, there's a couple things you can do, and to remember that leaving home represents leaving you, right? And leaving and going outside there, and going out into, will I be okay? Who's going to take care of me, mom, or dad? And so again, it's matchmaking to the adults and making it very seamless. You're going to go from this person to this person, really putting your hands in that person's care. The other thing you can do is to bridge that distance that opens up between home and school, and to give something that represents your relationship and the security in you thinking of them. I know that Martine and Catherine, in their resources they put together, they put this wonderful book called the Invisible String, about attaching your invisible strings, because remember, again, invisibility and things that are not so tangible might be more important now because of the COVID precautions. You could put, perhaps you check with the school, a little picture in their lunchbox, remind them what you're going to do when you pick them up, and this is what's for dinner. Every Thursday in my house it's sushi. Oh, it's sushi night, or it's Taco Tuesday, and whatever it is, remind and orient your children to the things that keep them secure and help them feel at home with you. And don't be afraid to just put the focus on the connection point, so that your children are orienting back home and thinking about the connection and not the separation. This would be really important. Then, of course, when you come home and your kids have some emotional steam to blow off, don't be afraid to put some of that steam into play, and to do some alarm-based play and have your child experience a sense of alarm in the context of safety. It provides a discharge. It helps your child become more resilient and adaptive around alarm. You don't have to talk about how school is scary or represent in your home, but there are children playing coronavirus tag. My nephews are drawing pictures of COVID with eyes on it and all sorts of things at home. It's quite interesting to see how children are representing COVID in their play, and again, they're mastering this new reality in their play. So don't be afraid to push it into that place. And of course, tears, sometimes there's nothing left to do but cry. And yes, I know it's hard, and yes, I know you've got these big feelings, and mommy will take care of you, or daddy will take care of you. And after some of those tears, again, they'll become at least more released of the alarm that they have. And you're the parent. Read the cues and walk them into that relationship. There's so many things we can do when our children are feeling separation anxiety. Oftentimes we get so alarmed by those big feelings that they have, but the power that you have to just deal with your children and to make them feel at home with you. As my daughter would be going through a lot of anxiety, separation anxiety around school, and when she was young and it was new and unknown. And I remember at night she would talk and that's going on. And I remember, just those nights where I would spend more time just lying with her till she fell asleep, because that's what she needed at the end of those days that were full of alarm. I remember one night she said to me, "Mommy, you just bring me so much comfort," right? She was 7, and she was so clear that the answer was, "You bring me comfort." And so don't forget that it is your relationship that is the ultimate answer here to the anxiety, which is based on the separation from you.
We might not be able to fix the distress, but we can come alongside it and give it space so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And that's the hardest thing as a parent. We want to fix the distress, but the distress has to be expressed, and in that comfort, it can move through and then hopefully not take too much space. Yeah, at Riverside, we've allowed, I do believe that the children will be allowed to at least bring a picture in their lunchbox or in their whatever with them, and we've really encouraged that, especially for the younger children, so that they can keep mommy and daddy and mommy and whoever in mind when they're in their classroom and feeling the separation.
Yeah, and that's such a wonderful point about food, is that food is such an important connection of home. The smell and the taste of home, it can be so embodied in your food. And so please don't forget that point of comfort during the day for your child, is that they've actually brought home with them. That lunchbox represents you, the caretaking, and the food. It doesn't matter what food it is, but they know that it is you that has provided it. So, you can remind them, I put your special, muffins in your lunch today, or whatever it is that you've got, homemade or not homemade. Mommy was thinking of you, daddy was thinking of you. And so it's a point of connection in a day that could be very long for them, but it's a point of connection.
Well, here's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I worry about someone at the school contracting the virus. What will be the impact on, especially on the children, if they hear about it? So if a child is already anxious and nervous about returning, what can we do to prepare them? Do you think we will see children with PTSD once if we can reclaim a sense of normalcy in schools? How about that?
Well, I mean, I think and one of the things, and it's strangely absent in our conversations, is how do we lead when the reality is that people we know or in our own family will have COVID. And I've been thinking about this with my kids and preparing myself actually mentally for the fact that I or my family members may have COVID, and kind of in my head thinking about how am I going to lead through this? Well, I'm going to lead based on the information I have. Well, yes, it's here. We knew it happened, and so we're going to lead forward and to just get busy taking care of them physically and paying attention to that. And so it's no different if we hear that other people around us have had COVID. Where do I put my faith? Yes, the doctors, the nurses, the caring people, the hospitals, they're all working hard to take care of people, and they're doing an amazing job, and so yes, they're going to get help and people will take care of them. We had family or friends of my daughters who had a very, very serious case of COVID, and again, the faith was in the adults that would take care of them. If you have a religion or a faith, that can help sustain you as well in the middle of all of the turmoil. And so again, you're just turning to the things that you rest in to say, this will carry us through the storm. The answer is not to say we have all the answers, but to know the fact that we will be carried through the storm, that we trust in the people to take care of us, and we find our tears, we find our expression. But please don't think that your child is going to be able to express everything or make sense of everything. I don't even think we can right now. Yeah. For the longest time, I couldn't even find my tears about what had happened. I had my words, I could explain it very logically, but my emotions did not catch up to my words. That's only taken some time. You might even find that your words leak out of you here and there, and you're not, your tears leak out of you here and there. You're like, why am I crying to this all of a sudden? Or why am I suddenly so sad or disappointed or just unsettled? Because emotions do leak out of us. The PTSD, that this whole term post-traumatic stress disorder, is basically when your emotions build up and your words and your meanings don't come back. So does that have to be our destiny? No, it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. It's not something that just comes out of the blue. It's when you have more emotion and less feeling. Right now, as we get through this, what we know we have to anchor to for emotional health and well-being is relationships and togetherness, to emotional expression, to finding our words when they come, to our tears and to our play. If we can keep our focus on these things, then yes, we can absolutely weather this emotional storm. We are built for very hard things, for adversity, for resilience and resourcefulness. We cannot forget this. However, we need not go too fast here. We need to just support what is required, which is we're feeling people. They're not all here right now. We haven't all caught up to our feelings yet. Please don't push it. Please just allow for expression that is safe in the context of your relationship, and we will get through this. And even if people get stuck, and each of us here knows this, Martine, Catherine, and Eva and I, when kids get stuck, we know what to do. We apply more relationship, more caring, more connection. Right?
And we
more emotional expression, more play, and we get through and we find our tears. So this doesn't have to become who you are, but it will be a journey. It will be a storm. It will be something that we have to carry each other through. And there is a way through all of these big emotions that are going to be part of this.
Yeah, and different children will do it differently.
Absolutely.
Some children, it will be right up front, it'll be right there, they'll be messy, it'll be all over the place. And those are the ones we usually worry about, when actually it's the opposite. Those are the ones where the emotion is moving through. And of course, other children, it will wait a while. I had the opportunity to give a talk about the importance of tears, and one of the things I said as well is that a child might start crying about their macaroni. You didn't make their macaroni right. It's too watery, mommy. It's exactly the way I made it 3,000 times, but today it's too watery. Well, the tears are not coming about the macaroni. The macaroni is the only thing that the child can acknowledge right now to get that sea of tears out of them and that frustration out of them. And so we need to be aware that sometimes what they're upset about won't be in line with what actually is happening, but the upset is bigger. And when we see the upset, that should not be distressing us, because now the emotion is moving through.
Yeah, that's so well said. I think, sometimes we equate sadness with depression. Sometimes we equate frustration with an aggression problem, instead of seeing that this is just part of the emotion that needs to move through our kids, and conveying that we're big enough to take and handle and push it into play or wherever it needs to be. And not to forget our really sensitive kids who are, as a parent to some sensitive kids, these words aren't always easy to find. They're very vulnerable. The more you have your words, the heightened the alarm becomes, because you put words to your feelings, so the alarm comes right to the surface. And so we need to go slow sometimes. We need to make room for it, and again, to soften it through play, through music, through whatever way it is, those beautiful tears that eventually do come. That not to be afraid, that every child won't look a certain way. That's not the goal here. It's just that they move, and that you can play a role in leading them through those vulnerable emotions, and our own. We got to take care of our own here too.
Yes.
The same thing applies.
But you're actually just leading right into one of the questions we have here, which is how to approach these subjects with a child who's gifted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the challenge with a child who's gifted is they see much more than we wish they did. and you're not going to get away with just simple answers sometimes, and things can oftentimes go over the top because the stimuli is just much greater, and the processing, it stops the processing because of the overload sometimes. And so I'd say take it slow. Remember, relationship is important. We're in no big hurry here, and again, emotional expression would be key here, because the more you've got to give more space perhaps to that, and provide more of a container that way to move into play and move into music, move into motion where you can. I wouldn't get into huge dialogues and questions about this. I think that would be a challenge. I think I would try to move it out of that a little bit more, although I think a lot of them are very preoccupied and will want to stay there, as if making sense of something keeps you safe. It does not. There's an expectation that if you have all the answers here, that somehow in those, that questioning, there'll be an answer. And the reality is we're up against futility. And futility is hard, especially for really of our sensitive. It's hard for everybody, let alone for our kids who are already experiencing a world and so many futilities in their life, a world that is oftentimes too big, too much, too challenging, too much of everything. And that whole, that's a whole bunch of futility right there. And then you add COVID on top. So take it slow, focus on relationship with that emotional, build up, make sure you're providing some release valves and slowly get them, expressing, naming, tears, and so on and so forth. But relationship is key here.
Yes, and another question just popped up. What can we do when our kids are crying for nothing over all this?
Well, I think be joyful that your kids are crying. And I know you're probably wincing at me to say that, saying, oh, it's easy for you to say. But no, it's not. I have to tell you. What I can say, though, is that when your children are getting to their tears, you've got so much emotional release there. The system is trying to fight. Tears are not the hurt, they're the healing. Althea Salter, one of the developmentalists, said that. Tears are not the hurt, they're the healing. And so you've got the release, you've got the sadness, you've got the disappointment. I'm much more concerned about a child who doesn't have their tears, or a parent who doesn't find their tears, because the emotional buildup, it's like water behind a dam. There's going to be a burst, and tears are the best way to leak them out. And so I'm not worried about crying over nothing. I know that with enough tears, you'll find your way through. It's not nothing. It's not nothing to the brain. We just don't always understand it. So good for you. You've got a child with a nice, soft heart who have their tears. They must feel safe with you if they're having their tears. So try not to worry about what nature has given you. I think you're already on your way if your children can cry with you. That's fantastic. Yeah.
If our child is 5 years old and only returning in September, how much energy should we put in preparing them now, as opposed to closer, or when should we start talking to them about how school will be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, even if you think about a normal rollout with a kindergarten, too soon, and they just, some kids will start to worry about it. They'll forget or whatever it will be. There are so many things that are changing right now that I think it's a really good question. I think the very basic things are, important. Like number one, you're going to send them to school. Number two, where's the school? What is school? And beyond that, the best preparation for school that I know is a deep relationship with you, because it's not a preparation that's separating from home to school that is important here. It's a deep relationship with you and a maturity in the child where they feel more independent and they have a natural bias to want to separate and to head to school. And so just work on your relationship. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the more they're attached to you, the more they have room to play, figure out who they are, their interests, their passions, their expression. That actually is some of the best preparation for kindergarten, because they show up knowing who they are and feeling secure in your relationship, and you'll just see this beautiful burst. I do it myself. I just want to go and hold, and don't hold me back. And so that's the best preparation right now. And you've got a nice long stretch from now until September to be working on all those things. Yeah.
And I know that, again, because of all that we're learning now about how we're going to manage school, there will be changes in September, and definitely for the children that are coming new to our schools, the school boards will again share the new knowledge. So don't worry, we'll do the similar thing in September for those that are coming new to the school, for sure. So, but we just not quite sure how it will play out in September. We're just working with it right now. So we're nearly at the end of our time. I do have one question here that I didn't get around to, so I will just, my child has difficulties following without the teacher coming to her desk to point or explain or to keep her on task, and I'm afraid she'll get frustrated by not having that proximity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's, your child well, which is great. And there's probably an age here too as well, that, it may not be as unexpected. And you're certainly, your child won't be the only child coming to school where this is true. So I think, if you don't think that's something your teacher already knows, then I think it's important to share that information with them. If you have a strong relationship with your child, it's to solicit some good intentions with your child. Can I count on you? This is where your teacher will be. Can I count on you to look to them for guidance and advice? Don't forget that relationship is one of the most powerful influencers on the face of the planet. And even if your child doesn't, even a 4-year-old who doesn't have impulse control yet, if you have a strong attachment with that child will follow. And so what's important here is to build your relationship with your child, solicit those good intentions if they're over the age of 3 or 4. Obviously, if they are going into the school system, over 4, and say, can I count on you, and put them into the hands of the teacher, and do work with the teacher outside of your child, knowing that you're working with them, and just say, this is my concern. Can you help me? And I'm sure between the two of you, you'll figure out a way to keep them connected to the adult, and to keep them on task, and then to figure out how that proceeds. But yeah, attachment's incredible here as a motivational and an influencer of your child's behavior in the classroom. So we can't lose sight of that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think right now, at least for the first few weeks, the teachers are not going to be so worried about the children producing work, but more about learning the routines of school. And I know that in some of the documents that we shared with the teachers, we asked them to prepare a variety of different things for children to do. So when one thing doesn't work, that they have something else that they can turn to until the teachers can figure out how to give them the support that they need.
Yeah.
All right.
Wonderful.
Well, I think we are just about at the end of our time. I don't see Catherine, Martine, I don't see other questions coming up right now. I believe that we have pretty well followed, gotten through to all of the questions that were asked. I know that, again, for many of the parents, this is very precious time that they have, sneaking away from, yes, Martine and Catherine,
bedtime routines.
Yeah. And so just like to thank you very much, Deborah, for taking this time very much to share with our parents, to help them lead their children back to this new school that our children will be going to, placing them into the hands of the teachers that will care for them. And we will be, for all of you that had registered for tonight, we will be sending you links to a number of different resources. Deborah has actually written an article based on the material that she shared with us tonight. So if you're a reader, you can read over the suggestions that she made there as well. Martine and Catherine have developed some wonderful, wonderful activities, things that you can do with your children. We're posting daily videos. We have some lovely, one CTV and one CBC video of what schools are actually doing. So for those of you that need to see a picture of what it's like, of how it's playing out, of the incredible alpha energy that the teachers are bringing to some of the teachers that maybe, you don't, that you maybe even be a bit surprised at how this is pulling out that wonderful caring energy from the teachers. So please refer to that. So you will be getting an email from us with all sorts of information that, that will be helpful to you as parents. And again, please communicate with your schools if you have questions. Continue to visit the Center of Excellence website, where we will be posting more things. You will be getting more information from your different school boards, but especially Riverside has done an absolute wonderful job of putting things into the hands of both the parents, but also of the teachers. We're taking care of our teachers, so our teachers can take care of your children. So thank you very much, everyone. And we're all going to go into this adventure together and take care of our most precious resource, which is the children in our care.
Eva,
So
I would just want to add, I really appreciated Deborah's comment of what we are living through is like a marathon. And I think how key it is that we take moments to catch our breath. And I think that for parents to, it's a big job. It is our most important job of all, no matter what, is taking care of our kids, and the importance for adults to have other adults that they can lean on, and that they can have the adults as the support so that they can be the person they need to be, the answer for their kids, to be able to be in that lead and to hold on to that lead, to help their kids feel more safe and secure through the process. Not all days will be easy, and we know that. And a marathon is not easy, but we will get through this. And hold on to the people around you, and don't be shy to reach out. We have resources for you, but there are people close to you that you can outreach, and they will be happy to support. You just need to put the hand out, reach out, and there will be somebody to help. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on board and helping us out. It's quite the treat to have you with us. Thank you so much.
It's my treat too. Thank you. And all to you beautiful parents and their beautiful children. And we're all facing the same thing right across Canada and around the world. So we'll figure this out.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you so much.